Hello and welcome back to the channel. I have a bit of a rain and of course my sleeping dog is a background special effects, special sound effects for this video. Now this video is going to cover the less glamorous side of knife throwing, which is targets. Now a target usually would have three parts: the frame that holds everything together, the backstop, sometimes called the backboard, which is stopping the stray knives that actually goes too wide or too high, too low, and the target face itself. Now the target face itself, that's what we usually just refer to as the target. Now if you only want the bullet points for this video, they are as follows. Don't throw at live trees. Vertical grain targets are okay if you're throwing larger knives and tomahawks and hatchets. They'd be okay for a rotational throwing, but they will wear out faster. The best targets are end grains and low grounds. Hands down, those are the two best ones. And the only target that lasts forever is the one that you never use or you don't use as often. So yeah, if you want to find out the why, the hows, and some possible other options, please stay with us. So let's start on the live tree idea. So besides the moral code, and some places in the world there would be actually a reasonable fine for it, and so put that all aside, live trees or even standing up trees are not the best target surface. First of all, some of them would have reasonable bark on them, and this bark is very textured. So if you're throwing, if you're a beginner especially, this texturing will reduce your stick rate. Besides, this is actually quite a hard surface to throw into. Second, I need a bit of a rearrangement. So a standing up tree, I don't have a standing up tree, so I'm going to use this bucket. Now what you see is a convex surface. This is what you see. So, and this is actually quite reasonable size. It's about 350, 400 mil across. So, as you throw your knife or your implement, and if you hit it somewhere here, it has a greater possibility of just keep on sliding off, because the only flat surface is what right front of you. Beside this is all rounded. Now again, as a beginner, it will reduce your stick rate because you have a little bit of spin on the end and it will slide off. So low ground, which would give you a flat surface, bigger stick rate. So live trees, don't throw into them. Now the worst targets possible is any type of man-made sheet or man-made wooding. For example, MDF, medium density fiberboard, plywood, which is layered, but same goes for particle board, flooring board, any kind of man-made stuff, man-made boards, which made out of small bits and either glued together or pressurized together, whichever manufacturing they use. But what they are, they hard, and it just reduces your stick. Actually it does a couple of things, but just don't use them. Now if you need a reason why not, the best reason would be learn from those who know what they're doing, and all the top throwers, all the throwers that whose opinion is worth listening to, you won't see any of them using this as their permanent target face. Yes, they might do it for the trick shot, but not as a permanent target face. But if you need more reasons. First of all, it's hard. So you need to throw, as a beginner, need to throw harder. Actually, even going back, it has to have a perfect stick. So if you're slightly off, it's going to just fall off. Now at the beginning, your brain is not ready to compute what your eye is telling you of which way, why it wasn't a good stick. Is it went this way, is it went this way, up, down, under, over. After a while you develop this knowledge. So a better target when you have a bad stick will give you a visual feedback of how do you have to adjust your throw. If you're using something like this and you just keep glancing off, for a while you can't tell am I went under, over, which way. So that would be one reason. Other reason, you have to throw harder to stick into this. So throwing harder can cause a couple of issues. One, when you're still developing that kind of muscle movement required for throwing, you will easier or more prone to injuries. The other thing is, as you're throwing harder to stick into this, not the best target face, you can develop bad technique, which would be on a softer target or good target, it wouldn't have developed. But anyway, don't use them. Now, if you say, I say this because I can't stick into them, I have a video when I just use an ordinary screwdriver, just a normal flathead, and I chuck it into MDF. I mean, it can be done. It's just not a good thing for everyday practice. So, if you don't have much money or you're between moving, you still don't know what you're doing, you're setting stuff up, you can actually use just ordinary cardboard, layer them up. So this is only 2 layers, but put a few layers together, and that would be relatively okay target face for lighter knives. Heavier knives will destroy this. So get like, I don't know, 250 millimeter, 10 inches at least of cardboard. Now when you tape it together, only tape is shiny and sometimes it can be slippery, so tape it only on the edges, so you got the middle of your target face is free of tape. And don't use the shiny cardboard, use just normal packaging cardboard if you need to. Now cardboard might also work better in an apartment situation when you don't want that thump to resonate, or as I said, as a temporary target. Now another good indoor target could be, now I don't have the final product, this dense foam. Actually they archery targets made out of this denser foam. Now this is actually out of a packaging, and I will make an archery target out of it one day. They readily available in a sports good shop. For lighter implements, bow shurikens, especially something that's really pointy, this is really good. Indoor target, really good. Now same goes for some people. Again, I don't have the proper product, but this kind of foam, this is like a sleeping mat foam, but you can get this in a big, they like a big puzzle. People use them as camping flooring. You kind of lock them together and then you got a piece of flooring in front of your caravan or tent. Now, especially for sharper and lighter instruments, throwers, those are quite good. Now we come to the better targets, which is, so let's start with vertical grain target. Vertical grain targets are basically a piece of board. Okay, now you can see the grains running vertically. So the good thing about them is you can make a big target face. I mean, you can literally build a whole wall, and you know it's only this thick, so it's actually relatively manageable. The bad part is they will wear out quite fast. You can see the chisel marks where when the knife hits it or hits it on a not perfect angle, it will literally chisel chunks out of it. Now, vertical grains are better suited for rotational throwing, where the knife travels straightish. Rotational throwing doesn't have the bullet spin, and if you have no spin throwing or any of the half spin, instinctive, the bullet spin will sometimes make the knife hit on an angle. Again, that's not the easiest stick with a vertical grain, because if you imagine the grains as my standing finger, the knife can easier, again not easy but easier, go in between when it's straight up, and these are the grains running vertically. If it's tried to go against, it's got a little bit of a harder time. But they're easily replaceable, and you can make big targets out of it. For example, if you're into silhouette throwing, when you want a life-size target. Now, the best targets, hands down, are either end grain targets or log rounds. Basically, let's start with a log round. Log round is just a tree that's been cut and it faces you this way, so you see the grain, the end of the grain. Now, what happens in a log round? On a log round, they're like this way. The grains are this way, so doesn't matter if your knife goes this way, it has an easier time to penetrate the target. Now, the benefits or positive of a log round, if you know the local tree service or local firewood guy, they can cut you a couple of sections, and sometimes it won't cost as much. So not much manufacturing required. The negative side of it is whatever the tree size was, that's your target. You can't make it bigger. If you try make a whole wall out of it, where the next round will sit, there is a gap in between, and as Murphy would tell you, if there is a gap, your knife will disappear down that gap. So that's the downside of the log round. Now, on the other side, if you make your log round, say 250 millimeter long or 10 inches or something like that, and you donut it out the middle, which basically you worn out the middle, you can just cut it down, and then you got a fresh target face. Also, I think I never had a log round. I never was privileged to have a log round. I always made end grain targets, but some throwers will tell you that log rounds might last longer, especially for heavier implements. Now, I think they're lasting longer is also dependent on the wood selection. They would use soft wood like cotton wood or some other really soft fibrous wood. I think they give or take pine, plantation pine, my pellets came from. They okay. So now, an end grain target is basically a man-made log round, usually made in a shape of a square because that's the easiest to make. The positive side of an end grain is you can make it as big as you want, but negative side, you have to make it. So if you buying your timber to make your end grain, it could, in some part of the world, it could be a costly exercise. Now, your end grain should be, well, but in my opinion, at least 100 mil, 4 inches wide. Mines are 97 millimeter wide, because I live in a metric world, and 1 meter timber, if I would ever make it out of good timber, would give me 10 equal blocks, because it's 97 millimeter plus the 3 millimeter the width of the saw blade. Now there are many different construction methods. There's none of them's better than the other. It's only for the end user. I found the way I make them is better for me or easier for me. There is a couple of videos on that particular subject. Now the cost for mine are basically just the glue, because I get them for free, the pellets. People who would say, here they don't last as long. My ones, throwing medium-sized implements, so up to 300 gram throwers, last about between 60 to 80 throwing hours. So for me, that's between, the shortest period was 4 months and the longest period was 7 months. So in a year I'll have to make 2 or 3 of these. Now if I replace them often enough, I can actually plug the hole. That means they last twice as long. So 3 weekends out of a year to make these, for me, it's not a problem. Other people, it could be a problem. Now you also, if you say, I can't make them because I don't have a workshop, there is I think he's a Russian gentleman, that could be Ukrainian, I don't know. He lives in an apartment building, and he made a video of making one of these in his kitchen just by using a handsaw and a couple of threaded rods as the clamping devices. So this has to be a big setup. You don't need a fully furnished carpenter shop to do this or make this. But what you need to do with wooden targets, you have to wet them. You don't have to, it's not soaking them in the bathtub type of thing. You're just using a garden spray, weed spray. If you're outside thrower, using your garden hose, a couple of minutes, that's it. Now wetting them makes the fibers expand, and if the fibers expand, they more forgiving, less chipping happens. But last topic is no target face will ever last forever. You have to replace them, because there's the consumable. When there is two objects collide, one has to wear out. One is the sacrificial, the other is the not sacrificial. I don't know the big word for it. And I would rather replace my targets than my knives. There are people who would swear by using hardwood as their target. Again, same argument I have for having hardwood. You want to throw at something that's a bit more forgiving, where you can actually see your stick rate, or see the bad sticks and adjust accordingly. Now that's my opinion, but then again, when I look at videos of people who are really good throwers, they all use softwood, and they all use either end grains or low grounds. So I actually quite happy to learn from other people, and if it's good for them, it's good for me. So this is today's topic, today's video. If you found it interesting, you can like, share, subscribe, and I will be back with another one of these in the near future. Thank you for listening. Bye.